man, what else you know about that book?
In 1947, the suspected Roswell crash brings gray aliens into our naive terrestrial bubble. The crash site, having immediate proximity to Trinity, the first nuclear bomb tests, connects our contact with grays to the nuclear blasts. Such theories have been explored at length. Marty McFly is abducted by a UFO during an epic struggle to connect with grays. The grays enter his life at this innocently titled merchant, Blast from the Past. The correlation is obvious when one recognizes that blast from the past refers to the blast from the past, the atomic bomb blasts at Trinity in New Mexico that catapulted mankind into the atomic age and instigated contact with the grays. This first contact takes place in 1947. The chronological connection is unveiled by an albino vermin with a suspiciously pronounced presence during Marty's encounter of the Greys at the blast. Roger Rabbit is set in 1947. This being the year that Greys are discovered near the blast in Roswell, New Mexico. To solidify that 1947 is indeed being pointed to, we will note that Marty is directed to this information of Greys at the blast by this man, Charlie Fleischer.
Miami. What did you just say?
I said I wish I could go back to the beginning of the season. Put some money on the Cubbies.
What did you just say?
Fleischer, the actor, is the voice of Roger Rabbit, again taking place in 1947 along with the Roswell crash. Our Trinity explosion reference, Blast from the Past, is validated when we scrutinize the hidden hand of its cleverly obscured logo. 60-degree increments split the decade markers on the timepiece. By drawing in the conveniently covered digits, we extrapolate the realization that the blast being referenced is indeed the Trinity explosion, as the hand points directly to 1945. The date of Trinity, couple 1945 with the accentuated word blast, and suddenly we see the light. In the earliest instance of Back to the Future scripts, we uncover further evidence of strong nuclear gray contact suggestions when we learn that the space-time distortion vehicle was intended to be placed at the site of a nuclear explosion in order to trigger the opening of the Stargate. The time machine, as a mechanism for traversing dimensions, is synonymous with entering higher states and thus encountering higher life forms, or grays. So, it is fitting that this machine was intended to be activated at the site that pioneered nuclear explosions, where gray higher intelligences are said to have been first found. Nuclear higher intelligence contact is relived by Marty McFly as the time machine crashes into the Assembly of Christ Church, a location predated by the cinematic showing of The Atomic Kid. The leap to nuclear weaponry is accompanied by contact. Of note is how mushroom clouds and conventional contact protocol via craft abduction share an apparently sacred geometric archetype, further fusing contact with alien semi-deities with the deity impersonating act of atom splitting. John F. Kennedy, in a letter to the CIA on November 12th, demands records revealing intel pertaining to the suspected alien presence on Earth. Marty traverses this atomic stargate to contact higher life forms on November 12th. In front of the store where he learned that gray contact was made from the atomic blast, the very same information that JFK sought on the very same day, November 12th. JFK's thirst for this knowledge is accounted for by strange forces which place a bust of his head at this scene where the information he sought is actually discovered. The blast from the past is where the Greys tethered a terrestrial connection. 10 days after JFK sought this information, he was killed. On that very same day, an atomic blast test exploded in the desert of New Mexico, its codename, Grays. At a dinner with the McFlys, Marty expresses exceptional interest in men from space.
Hey, I've seen this one. This is a classic. This is where Ralph dresses up as a man from space.
He then seeks directions to Doc Brown's house.
Listen, do you know where Riverside Drive is?
It's the other end of town, a block past Maple, east end of town.
Where the scientist has just conceptualized our nuclear gray contacting mechanism.
Standing on your toilet and you were hanging a clock and you fell and you hit your head on the sink. And that's when he came up with the idea for the flux capacitor, which is what makes time travel possible.
Only to find out that the process was carried out on...
Block past Maple, that's John F. Kennedy Drive.
Who the hell is John F. Kennedy?
Mother?
Block past Maple, that's John F. Kennedy Drive. Block past Maple, that's John F. Kennedy Drive. 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 Drive. That's John F. Kennedy Drive.
The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society. And we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings. For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means.
You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Imprisoned in the underworld by his sons Zeus and Hades, none are prepared for the wrath of Kronos, father of the gods, king of the Titans, destroyer of the universe. When the Titan King rises, the world will end. Wrath of the Titans.
In Greek mythology, Cronus is the god of time. He once ruled the universe until it was stolen from him by Zeus. Christopher Lloyd is our Zeus resonator, and he battles Cronus' clock tower in the synchromistic epic Back to the Future. The Greeks' story said that Cronus was defeated by Zeus by way of his lightning bolt. Christopher Lloyd kills the clock tower with a lightning bolt, and since Cronus was the god of time, or the titan of time, it seemed fitting that he would be represented by a gigantic, inanimate, but still antagonistic clock tower. Cronus was also a god who embodied limitation, darkness, death, and the color black. He was almost always depicted carrying a scythe, which is why his modern-day adaptation, the Grim Reaper, Death, also carries the scythe. The theme of escaping death is exemplified by the construction of a time machine, which is why Lloyd builds one, because Lloyd is Zeus, and Back to the Future is the story of how Zeus defeated the god of time, limitation, darkness, and death, Cronus. Cronus was the leader of the Titans, and his death marked the end of their reign over the universe, which humanity still celebrates to this day by lighting a gigantic torch, the Olympic torch, which honors the victory of the Olympian gods and their rise to power in the cosmos. This is why the leader of the Olympian gods, Zeus, lights a gigantic torch immediately after symbolically killing the leader of the Titans, Cronus, which signified the victory of the Olympian gods. Today, we also celebrate Zeus's victory by the running of the torch, which Christopher Zeus Lloyd also does, immediately after killing Cronus. Take a look at the strange nature in which Christopher Lloyd blazes down this trail of fire. He is clearly running as if symbolically gripping and hoisting something in his hand. His arm is not only awkwardly raised, but his hand is cupped and held in a position that defies all logic, unless you take into account that he is acting out the Olympic torch run, if only subconsciously, which makes perfect sense since he is running down a trail of fire. These two acts, The lighting of a gigantic torch at the Temple of Hera and the subsequent running of the torch are still and were always performed in honor of Zeus's victory over Cronus. So is it only a coincidence that Christopher Zeus Lloyd performs these acts immediately after striking down a giant clock with a bolt of lightning, while simultaneously transcending humanity's most insurmountable limitations, those of being trapped in time? Is this a reenactment of the Olympic ceremonies and the Olympian mythology of the rise of the Olympian gods? After a closer look, you will see that it clearly is. According to the Greek myth, Zeus is not alone during the battle. He had the help of his two brothers, Poseidon and Hades. Zeus is the personification of the planet Jupiter, Cronus the personification of Saturn, while Hades is the personification of the planet Pluto. If this is truly a reenactment of the Olympian rise to power, then we should find both Hades and Poseidon present at the scene. Luckily, Hades is so clearly represented by Marty McFly that it is almost laughable. We learn that Universal Studios head Sig Sheinberg advocated a replacement of the title Back to the Future with Spaceman from Pluto, referring to Marty McFly, who was even supposed to state the line, "I am a spaceman from Pluto," which would have overtly stated his Hades-Pluto synchromistic entrainment. In this scene, Marty McFly is identified as a godlike alien supremacy from, of course, Pluto.
Hey, Doc?
Then there's the introduction of Marty McFly, where for the first time ever he enters into frame to garner first impressions from an estranged audience, only to draw the audience's attention directly to the element plutonium, which is directly named after the planet Pluto. He is introducing himself, not just as Marty McFly, but as an earthly personification of the planet Pluto, and thus the god Hades. Each of the three brothers had a special weapon which they used during the battle against the god of time Cronus. Zeus had his lightning bolt, Poseidon had his trident, Hades had his helm of darkness, which made him invisible. In the second film, Marty becomes the Invisible Man, wearing a black hat and an all-black disguise in an attempt to be unseen, which he achieves for a large portion of the film, whereby he walks about in broad daylight and plain sight but is never spotted. Invisibility is his power. Marty is also the only character in the entire trilogy to ever actually turn somewhat invisible. Thus we have the two brothers, Zeus and Hades, fighting against Cronus Clock Tower. The scene has come together quite nicely. If only we could find the last piece of the puzzle, the third brother, Poseidon, somewhere. This scene happens moments before the clock tower fight scene. Hades is doing his invisible thing, and there he is. The last piece of the Olympian god puzzle falls solidly into place, and our Olympian trio materializes, ready for a reenactment of the transition from the age of Saturn, Cronus, to the age of Zeus, Jupiter. In the midst of the battle, we are hit with a remarkable sync event. This exploding clock is followed up instantaneously by the flashing of the commonly associated alternative name of Cronus Saturn, L. Watch as Cronus announces his presence with the exploding clock, and then the flashing of his name across the screen, roaring through the very fabric of the film to identify himself as the deity associated with all the time travel, clock tower madness. This ritual represents the end of the reign of Saturn, which is why it takes place late at night on Saturday, the end of the day of Saturday, the end of the day of Saturn.
Next Saturday night, we're sending you back to the future.
Okay, all right. Saturday's good. Saturday's good.
Jupiter is the astrological ruler of the zodiac signs 12, Pisces, and 9, Sagittarius, which is why, amidst the celebration, Zeus Jupiter Lloyd stands inside the astrological symbol of the 12th sign, Pisces, while just over his left shoulder is a giant 9, drawing our attention to the 9th sign, Sagittarius, whose symbol is an arrow. Luckily for us, this giant 9, curiously enough, is made out of an arrow.
This is the same genuine, magic, authentic crystal used by the priests of Isis and Osiris in the days of the pharaohs of Egypt, in which Cleopatra first saw the approach of Julius Caesar and Mark Antony and so on and so on. Now, you'd better close your eyes, my child, for a moment in order to be better in tune with the infinite. We can't do these things without reaching out into the... For a moment. You better close your eyes, my child, for a moment in order to be better in tune with the infinite. For a moment. You'd better close your eyes, my child, for a moment in order to... With the infinite. Close your eyes in order to be better in tune with the infinite. Close your eyes. This is it.
Specific foresights delivered to Marty in the form of this magic manuscript enable him to open a stargate through the fabric of space-time, which arouses our suspicions as to the nature of its acquisition. It becomes strange when we realize he obtains it in front of this, the Eye of Horus, often intimately associated with mankind's ascension process or mankind's connection to otherworldly high intelligences. Thus, it becomes suspicious when it takes such a profound interest in essential events preceding Marty's transdimensional adventure. We might even infer that the Eye of Horus was responsible for giving Marty the key to opening his time travel stargate. The ascension process, as well as the Eye of Horus, is often intimately associated with the pineal gland, almost exclusively associated both etymologically and optically with the pine cone. Marty McFly graciously interacts with the pine cone, or the word pine, by sitting on top of it, just before receiving his stargating scripture. Here he is, sitting on top of the word pine, about to be contacted by higher intelligences via the Eye of Horus, via his pineal gland. The pineal gland is also called the third eye, which is very convenient because directly in front of him are the words the, third, and then a picture of an eye, or the third eye, which appropriately foreshadows his polymorphous pilgrimage and strengthens the sync association of interdimensional travel as a third eye involving process of spiritual ascension. Not content at merely overseeing the events of that day, these otherworldly higher intelligences return to again meander the backdrop of Marty's manuscript acquisitions. With his third eye submersed in a rainbow, Marty ventures to the now revamped but geologically identical storefront to again obtain future foretelling scriptures from mysterious extraterrestrial forces.
See this book? This book tells the future. The information in here is worth millions. Gray's Sports Almanac.
Casual eye, this road leads into a stately mansion set in a forest glade. To the people of nearby East Grinstead, an old English town set in its ways, it's a source of irritation and trouble. And as far as the British government is concerned, St. Hill Manor is a haven for sinister cultists who prey on the unwary and bilk the gullible. Whatever it is, the manor is also world headquarters for Scientology, the brainchild of a one-time science fiction writer, L for Lafayette, Ron Hubbard, who has been barred from Britain and who is said by some to be living on a yacht now moored off Tunisia. And what is Scientology? Good question. I put it to Jane Kember, who with David Gaiman, a one-time real estate agent, is a spokesman for the school.
We address the being, or the spirit, or the soul, whatever you wish to say the person is, and we raise or help that person to raise their level of awareness spiritually. And the more aware the individual becomes of himself and of others and of the environment, the more able he is to handle the environment, himself and others.
This granite orb carries precious cargo from the past that's captured the imagination of these historians and stonemasons alike. In late May, the Angel Moroni statue was removed from the Salt Lake Temple for restoration and repair as part of a seismic renovation project. The capstone below the statue's feet held artifacts placed in a time capsule nearly 130 years ago. Witnessed by a small group of construction crews and onlookers amid COVID-19 restrictions, a stark contrast to its installation in 1892.
The capstone ceremony on the Salt Lake Temple was a huge event. There were tens of thousands of people on Temple Square. And you have dozens of construction workers and other people on the scaffolding, people sitting on the roofs of houses around the Salt Lake Temple site watching this ceremony take place. So this is a moment to reflect on the last 39 years of construction.
Once separated from the Moroni statue, stonemasons worked alongside church history preservation experts to carefully breach the capstone to discover what historic treasures lay inside, but also to seismically reinforce the steel inside that connects the statue to the capstone.
We hoped it would be easy, that we could just pop the top off, but as we started excavating, we found out how difficult it was. There was no other option besides cutting it open.
After painstaking and meticulous work, access was gained. 4 chambers full of artifacts placed north, east, south, and west, encased in concrete.
Which side are you on?
And the First Presidency of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints was there to see the first items removed.
This is wrapped around the books.
Among the artifacts identified, scriptures, popular religious books of the time, and a gold-leafed copper plate with the name of church leadership inscribed.
Everything was very damp. And part of that is because they had dumped concrete around all of the packets, and concrete will sweat and leach, and the books essentially were sponges.
Other anticipated items, photographs, some believed to be images of church founder Joseph Smith and his brother Hiram.
They are laminated together because of the moisture from the concrete, and no photographic image remains. But because they are C.R. Savage photo cards, we don't believe that any image that would have been on here would have been an original image.
Some of the most interesting and surprising discoveries were objects placed in the time capsule by people attending the capstone ceremony so long ago.
Mormonism teaches that trillions of planets scattered throughout the cosmos are ruled by countless gods who once were human like us. They say that long ago on one of these planets, to an unidentified god and one of his goddess wives, a spirit child named Elohim was conceived. This spirit child was later born to human parents who gave him a physical body. Through obedience to Mormon teaching and death and resurrection, he proved himself worthy and was elevated to godhood as his father before him. Mormons believe that Elohim is their heavenly father and that he lives with his many goddess wives on a planet near a mysterious star called Korah. Here the God of Mormonism and his wives, through endless celestial sex, produced billions of spirit children. To decide their destiny, the head of the Mormon gods called a great heavenly council meeting. Both of Elohim's eldest sons were there, Lucifer and his brother Jesus. A plan was presented to build planet Earth, where the spirit children would be sent to take on mortal bodies. and learn good from evil. Lucifer stood and made his bid for becoming savior of this new world. Wanting the glory for himself, he planned to force everyone to become gods. Opposing the idea, the Mormon Jesus suggested giving man his freedom of choice, as on other planets. The vote that followed approved the proposal of the Mormon Jesus, who would become savior of the planet Earth. Enraged, Lucifer cunningly convinced 1/3 of the spirits destined for Earth to fight with him in revolt. Thus, Lucifer became the devil and his followers the demons. Sent to this world, they would forever be denied bodies of flesh and bone. Those who remained neutral in the battle were cursed to be born with black skin. This is the Mormon explanation for the Negro race. The spirits that fought most valiantly against Lucifer would be born into Mormon families on planet Earth. These would be the lighter-skinned people, or white and delightsome, as the Book of Mormon describes them. Early Mormon prophets taught that Elohim and one of his goddess wives came to Earth as Adam and Eve to start the human race. Thousands of years later, Elohim, in human form once again, journeyed to Earth from the starbase Koloth, this time to have sex with the Virgin Mary, in order to provide Jesus with a physical body. Mormon apostle Orson Pratt taught that after Jesus Christ grew to manhood, he took at least 3 wives, Mary, Martha, and Mary Magdalene. Through these wives, the Mormon Jesus, for whom Joseph Smith claimed direct descent, supposedly fathered a number of children before he was crucified. According to the Book of Mormon, after his resurrection, Jesus came to the Americas to preach to the Indians, who the Mormons believe are really Israelites. Thus, the Jesus of Mormonism established his church in the Americas as he had in Palestine. By the year 421 AD, the dark-skinned Indian Israelites, known as Lamanites, had destroyed all of the white Nephites in a number of great battles. The Nephites' records were supposedly written on golden plates and buried by Moroni, the last living Nephite in the hill Cumorah. 1,400 years later, a young treasure seeker named Joseph Smith, who was known for his tall tales, claimed to have uncovered these same gold plates near his home in upstate New York. He is now honored by Mormons as a prophet because he claimed to have had visions from the spirit world in which he was commanded to organize the Mormon church, because all Christian creeds were an abomination. It was Joseph Smith who originated most of these peculiar doctrines which millions today believe to be true. By maintaining a rigid code of financial and moral requirements and through performing secret temple rituals for themselves and the dead, the Latter-day Saints hope to prove their worthiness and thus become gods. The Mormons teach that everyone must stand at the final judgment before Joseph Smith, the Mormon Jesus, and Elohim. Those Mormons who were sealed in the eternal marriage ceremony expect to become polygamous gods in the celestial kingdom, rule over other planets, and spawn new families throughout eternity. The Mormons thank God for Joseph Smith, who claimed that he had done more for us than any other man, including Jesus Christ. The Mormons believe that he died as a martyr, shed his blood for us, so that we too may become gods.
Gray's Sports Almanac. Gray's.
The Greys have also been intimately associated with the Eye of Horus, two symbolic equivalents to higher consciousness or higher intelligence that Marty happens to interact with. Take special note and consideration of how the word Greys is surrounded by stars, further eliciting the celestial nature of its associated entities, the Greys. Something very strange happens as Marty is first introduced to the book. This book that is brought to him by Greys is surrounded by stars and is being handed to this Stargate quester. At the very moment that it first touches his fingertips, it becomes completely surrounded by images that document humanity's most profound initiation into interstellar travel or cosmic endeavors, Apollo's missions to the moon, as if to foreshadow Marty's own personal journey into the non-local extraterrestrial realms of existence. The operative alien representative word, Greys, in fact makes direct contact with the most iconic of the Apollo photos just at the moment Marty is receiving the book for the first time.
Well, thank you very much. Tomorrow is a very big day because tomorrow will represent 50 years from the time we planted a beautiful American flag on the moon. And that was an achievement, possibly considered one of the great achievements ever. And we're going a lot further now. We're going to the moon, but we're then going to Mars. And I think very importantly, and all of you folks know that from a standpoint of defense, so important. We're going to be doing the Space Force. I assume you guys are all in favor of the Space Force, right? I'd be very surprised if you weren't, but that's where it's at. We're going to be doing the Space Force. We're very close to getting that completed and operating, and it's going to be very exciting. So a lot of things are happening.
And I was watching a lot of the NASA celebration propaganda that was going on for several days, and it was kind of a nationwide event with different exhibits and things going on at air and space museums and everything like that. And then the centerpiece, of course, was this Go for the Moon presentation in DC, which they played several times a night, 2 nights in a row. It's like this 25-minute production, which I've kind of been dumbstruck ever since I watched it the other day. Just absorbing the bizarre and yet like in your face exclamation point to so many things that just watching this, it's like I just kept watching it like going, okay, this really is real. This I mean, my goodness, this is an occult ritual embodying the original occult ritual from 50 years ago, and then like condensing that whole era into this 25-minute spectacle, which is like this roller coaster ride of emotionalism and sound clips and sound bites and images, and you just like everything you're looking at is occult symbolism, is archetypal conditioning, and I mean, it's mind-blowing. You're watching this this presentation where there's the screens on the sides showing like just tons of clips of the astronauts and everything, but in the center is the Saturn rocket projected onto the Washington Monument, this giant obelisk. I mean, it so embodies exactly everything you see Kubrick really showing in 2001: A Space Odyssey with the obelisk. What all of this represents, this whole picture of, it's all about transcendence. Transcendence through technology, right? That's the message. And you watch something like this and you're like, how do people still try and deny that science is a religion? I mean, it is so in your face. At the end of it, So they do the whole history of, building up to the launch, and there's like this countdown clock, and it's the stages of the rocket. I mean, the whole thing is symbolism, is esoteric symbolism. Everything about Apollo, every photo you've ever seen, is a type of programming, is a type of initiation. That's what the whole thing is. This whole event in 1969. And people always ask, well, why would they do this? Why would they go to all this trouble to fake something like this? And it's like, they're telling you now all the time, or we're telling ourselves. It was about this change in consciousness of all of humanity. And that's what they always talk about, even though, it was this one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. It was this united, or one human race accomplishing something, even though the entire build-up to it was predicated on beating Russia to the moon. And yet they get on the moon, and nobody's talking about, well, good thing we stepped on the moon first and beat the Russians, because that was what this was all about. No, it was this victorious achievement. It's this pinnacle achievement. That's what going to the moon, go for the moon. Because going back to the moon, creating this Artemis program where first we're going to go have a moon base or have like a smaller space station that orbits the moon, and from there we'll use that as our launching pad.
Through Artemis, the twin sister of Apollo, we are returning to the moon. Artemis 1 will be the first flight test of each of these components. United together, this is the first of Artemis's arrows, capable of ushering in the next chapter of human lunar exploration. With each component playing its part in a grander effort, we, the people of the Artemis generation, all around this beautiful world, will bear witness to what we are capable of. Together, we are going back to the moon.
For Orion and stuff, or manned space flight to Mars, and they're talking about 2024, and it's nuts. The whole thing is nuts.
The sound ah is a portal to higher consciousness. Human beings who seek God will look to the stars. This causes an elongation of the throat and vocal cords, a position conducive to producing the sound ah. Ah in Hebrew is aleph and hey. Aleph meaning the most high or divine. Hey means the window of the breath. Ah means the window of the breath that lets in the divine. Perhaps this is why meditation masters claim that meditating on the sound ah connects one with spirit. Ah is the sound we make to accept medicine. Medicine flies under the flag of the caduceus because it originates with medicinal and theogenic drugs that caused spiritual journey. Reaching higher consciousness means reaching higher states of awareness. Every time our consciousness grows, when we become more aware of something, we say, ah.
The dust we shall return.
Even when thinking or speaking about divinity, we are forced to say ah, because the word is ingrained in all of our words for God. Laughter, our greatest expression of joy, is an experience of spiritual growth. That is why laughter is pronounced ha, 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 ha. More recently as LOL or LOL. Ha 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 LOL reflects perfectly Jehovah Elohim, both gateways to divinity or joy. Humans intuitively understand that laughter is the best medicine. Higher consciousness lies in the stars. Looking at the stars forces us to say ah because of the position of our neck and throat. Monty Python and the Holy Grail is the search for an artifact that grants powers of Christ. The men encounter a white rabbit, then enter the rabbit's hole, where they find writing on a wall by
Joseph of Arimathea,
who tells them,
find the Holy Grail in the castle of...
triangle, square, pentagon, hexagon, heptagon, octagon, nanogon, decagon. One of these shapes is not like the others. The O in octagon is pronounced ah.
Since ancient times, the oval has been a symbol for the womb. And apparently, even the little green man in the UFO spaceships know this. And look how there's a circle in the oval, just as on the lawn where the Washington Monument is standing, exactly like that. And the obelisk is a phallic symbol, and as it is carved on top, it is the symbol for the circumcision, an old pharaonic tradition for the slaves, and a covenant with Satan or Satan. This is the symbol for the pharaonic warfare. Mix first with the obelisk in the oval, the womb, and fight the enemy from within as a virus, and strike unseen as a horned viper, being the satanic hand. And to do so, they had to take over all key positions in society, like we see here. And they look like us, they talk like us, they speak like us, they behave like us, well, almost. We can't recognize them anymore. And the enemy within is very real. They fight us from the inside out. They are the real pharaohs from Egypt, the Per-Ah. So when Clinton, Monica and the cigar had that triangle affair going on in the oval, the enemy within of pharaohs and masons knew exactly what was going on, that the message was classical AIHS stuff. Watch Isis behind. Where a cigar played the obelisk and phallic symbol, Clinton for Osiris, Monica for Isis, and the Oval Office for the womb. And the ictus. Go and multiply yourself, the pharaoh and the cigar said, because the carved top is the phallic front, so penetration has indeed succeeded. And for the worldwide royal Per-Ah community, it felt indeed as being set back 4,000 years ago at the royal court at the River Nile, with all the wonderful stories going on with cigars and such. So here you can see Muslims throwing stones at an obelisk, and the pharaohs, I hope. This is very nice, I like this. But what Mecca, St. Peter's Square, the Vatican and Washington, America have all in common is the obelisk and the oval, as these pharaohs ruled the whole world, all peoples and all races. So this is what the obelisks in the Vatican and in Washington have in common. They both portray the full act of penetration inside the oval. Just as outside on the lawn the obelisk has penetrated the oval of the Vesica. And even on the Muslim Kaaba, the oval of the mother goddess and probably Isis can be seen in Mecca. Ka is pharaonic for the soul when still alive, and Ba after death, like Kaaba. And when Allah stands beside it, it becomes Kaaba-La, the Cabal. Well, this looks like the hand sign Mrs. Miracle makes, doesn't it? And if you cross Upper Egypt from the pharaohs, from Amarna, and you cross the Red Sea, well, you get in Mecca immediately, which is a harbour town. So What can I say? So if you see politicians like the German Merkel doing the oval with her hands, then you know where that's from. It's the symbol of the Sisters of Isis, where the name Switzerland is from. See the Pharaoh show. Moreover, considering that Mer or Mer in Merkel is the Pharaonic word for pyramid, and Kel used to be Ka, the soul as in Merka or Merkaba, almost like America, where there's a big obelisk in the oval. So let's all unite, mankind. We have no choice. Forget about religion and race issues and get rid of these pharaohs together. So here we see a crop circle showing the Swiss cross. Now what are these crop circles warning us for? Maybe that the pharaohs have their base in Switzerland. The Washington Monument obelisk, the phallic symbol and symbol of the pharaonic domination, standing within the vesica, as in the logo of the Olympic Games, MasterCard, Gucci, Coop, Swiss supermarket, Audi cars, etc. This is a Freemasonry symbol, the two circles with the obelisk like in the middle. MasterCard. See the Pharaoh show and the Octagon series for more. Or the Illuminati car from Ingolstadt in Germany, where Adam Weishaupt came from, and many others. Octagon in Rome, with a real obelisk, a real Egyptian pharaonic obelisk in the middle. So this is where the Swiss rule. Octagon, the Swiss Pope's guard, they rule here. Octagon. See the Pharaoh show in the Octagon series for more. Octagon, St. Peter's Square, Vatican. This is where the Swiss Pope's guard rules. The Octagon rules here.
In the 16th century, during the sack of Rome, 147 members of the Swiss Guard were killed, saving the life of Pope Clement VII. The Guard has been protecting popes for more than half a millennium. Seth Doan now on the newest addition to their ranks.
As armies go, they're the world's oldest, smallest, and they say most photographed. They're surely the most colorful army, too. The pageantry Sunday, even by Vatican standards, hit another level as 32 new Swiss Guards were sworn in. Among the freshman class is 19-year-old Nicholas Albert.
I give the oath in front of God, saving the Pope's life and giving my life for the Pope.
Earlier in the day, we'd met Albert and his fellow guards backstage.
Right now, I'm a bit nervous. And it's going to be a big ceremony.
In addition to being from Switzerland and completing military training there, these guards must be at least 5'8", under 30, single, and practicing Catholics. They guard the Vatican every day, and their 16th century uniform is getting a 21st century update. Instead of the cast iron helmet, they've unveiled a new plastic one made by 3D printer. They're not as heavy, not as hot, and are half the cost.
Is being a Swiss Guard something that you thought of as a kid?
Yes, it was a childhood dream, actually.
Albert told us it was humbling to meet Pope Francis ahead of the big day. And when swearing loyalty to him, adrenaline overpowered his nerves. As foreign as this spectacle may appear, the sentiment of a mom is pretty familiar.
We are very proud of him.
Albert said as a kid it was the sword and uniform that appealed to him, but when he got older, it was faith that drew him to join the Pope's army. Seth Doan, CBS News, Vatican City.
The Great Pyramid is an octagram, just like Akhenaten or Amen or Amen-Ra. That is why our old shamanistic medicine men told us to meditate and say, Ah. The Stargate of Ah is the opening of the mouth to say Ah, so as to receive medicine from your witch doctor or shaman. Shaman were Amen. The modern shaman is a doctor. While shaman were both medicine men and spirit guides, the doctor is also both medicine man and spirit guide. Doctors oversee our entrance into life on earth. They help to prolong our stay on this physical plane. Then they oversee the exit of our soul into the next realm. The doctor, without even knowing it, is the spirit guide of today, which is why they are associated with the caduceus. Humans are hardwired to know that Ah takes us on a spiritual journey. That is why if someone were to tell you to say Ah, you would immediately think of a doctor.
We're off to see the wizard, the wonderful Wizard of Oz.
I'm not a doctor, but I play one on TV. If your child had a cough, she'd get just what the doctor orders.
You know what? I make a lot more money if I take this kid's tonsils out.
I'm not a doctor, but I play one on TV.
If there's a blue pill and a red pill, and the blue pill is half the price of the red pill and works just as well, why not pay half price?
We know that Donald Trump, much ado about his medical records. He had a physical last week, all kinds of talk, and, you know, as there should be, about transparency in this election and getting more information on both of these candidates. He went on Dr. Oz today, taped today, and surprise, revealed a one sheet of the results of his physical. Here was that moment.
If your health is as strong as it seems from your review of systems, why not share your medical records? Why not?
Well, I have really no problem in doing it. I have it right here. I mean, should I do it? I don't care. Should I do it? It's two letters. One is the report, and the other is from Lenox Hill Hospital.
May I see them?
Saying, yeah, sure.
So these are the report.
Those were all the tests that were just done last week.
All right, so CNN senior Washington correspondent Jeff Zeleny just sat down. CNN chief political analyst Gloria Borger with me. And interestingly, side note, Sanjay Gupta was just sitting in your chair, and he had talked to Dr. Oz this morning. And as of this morning, Oz didn't know that this sort of revealing what would happen.
A reveal in a presidential campaign. I mean,
Donald Trump trying to do something on morning television. Big shocker here. I mean,
yeah.
you know.
What do you think of it?
I think it's a little strange. I think it's Donald Trump, obviously.
Might work.
And I think he pulls this out of his pocket. The doctor had not seen it, so he had to analyze one sheet pretty quickly. We haven't seen the rest of it. It's a way of saying, well, I've done it. Here it is on television.
But
I've revealed it.
It still should be noted, though, as you know, we've talked about, this is not the standard that some candidates like John McCain did in 2008.
Right, the full McCain.
These are the oldest candidates running in a race on both sides. He's 70 years old. Hillary Clinton is 68, turning 69 next month. And one letter out of his pocket on Dr. Oz does not meet the standard that a lot of people think should be met in terms of which one of these are going to be president.
I'm not a doctor, but I play one on TV.
Maybe you're better off not having the surgery, but taking the painkiller.
Used by the priests of Isis and Osiris in the days of the pharaohs of Egypt.
Hello. Before I became the omnipotent and all-powerful ruler of Oz, I was a magician. You may be asking yourself why, at this moment, at the time of your victory, I would show up. I just wanted you to understand how I managed to bring this off.
Hey, is Zone here yet?
For the millionth time, no. I will budge you the second he gets here. Jeez, I've never seen you so excited. You're like a little girl the morning her brother gets out of jail for beating up a cop. Or Christmas morning.
Michael Faraday!
This is like stepping back in time.
The past is prologue, Michael. Men like us have to keep looking to the future.
I've been going over this Millennium Project proposal. There's some great stuff in here. I do think you should tone down the Armageddon end of days rhetoric.
No need to worry, Michael. I have some good news. I'm the Messiah.
That's a good joke. That's great. You start with that and you keep them light.
No, Michael. I'm serious. The chosen one. The King of Kings. The Alpha and the Omega. You're looking at him.
Look, Owen, if this is some kind of joke, let me just say, good one. I get it. That's, ha.
I'm as shocked as you are, believe me. I'm as shocked as you are, believe me. This is a big responsibility. I mean, look at this.
Things to do. Banish Satan and the forces of evil. Build the New Jerusalem. Buy milk.
I keep forgetting to pick up milk.
Owen, you can't be serious.
Look, Michael, I know I'm supposed to be able to do this all by myself, being the Son of God and all. I know I'm supposed to be able to do this all by myself, being the Son of God and all, but I'm feeling a lot of pressure, so I was thinking, maybe you could help me.
Well, you want me to help you, what, banish Satan and establish God's kingdom on earth?
If you're not too busy.
So, I hear you've been out of the game for a while. Are you sure you're still as sharp as Mike says?
How long have you been dating your secretary?
About a week.
You like this, don't you? Yes, you do. Yeah. All right. That's about all, kiddo. There you go. There you are. You just stay right there, Rags, all right?
Poor Rags. Dog. He's alive. It's a miracle. I'm the Messiah. I'm serious. The chosen one. The King of Kings. The Alpha and the Omega. You're looking at him.
my calculations are correct, when this baby hits 88 miles per hour, you're gonna see some serious shit.
Over the rainbow or into color is a metaphor for stepping into the light, being able to see new parts of the energy spectrum, becoming aware of new information that has been floating around us all along. Dorothy steps into the light of color, her metaphorical ascension. She gets there by journeying through a metaphorical wormhole, an earthbound wormhole impersonator tornado. She steps into the land of enlightenment. The sound we make when we suddenly become enlightened is ah. That's why the Lord of the land of enlightenment is Oz. Christopher Lloyd is Oz in The Witches of Oz, Lord of the land of color, clarity, or enlightenment. He plays this character in Who Framed Roger Rabbit, where our protagonist journeys a tunnel wormhole and enters into the land of light. The Lord of that land being Christopher Lloyd.
Since I've had Toontown under my jurisdiction, my goal has been to rein in the insanity.
Macaulay Culkin journeys the wormhole tunnel, then becomes engulfed in and enters the land of color, traversing the rainbow, stepping into the spectrum. The Lord of this land is Christopher Lloyd. He is the Lord of the land of color because he is Zeus, Jupiter, the land over the rainbow. The Wizard of Oz is strangely connected to green octograms that decorate his home of Emerald City. Ground Zero is the location of Emerald City in The Wiz and is home to a giant green octagon, the base of One World Trade Building. Christopher Lloyd's Oz movie takes place in New York City. Ground Zero is bordered by two parallel streets called West and Greenwich, or Greenwich, Green Witch of the West, another overt Oz resonance. The octagram is worn by Oz Lloyd in the movie DuckTales, where he hovers above an airplane that crashes into two towers, which then collapse. The ensuing scene eerily reminiscent of 9/11. Immediately after the carnage, he lands atop a pyramid. Green octagons are seen prominently on display as the wizard conquers flight to become Lord of the Sky. Sky god Zeus is an eagle in myth. Zeus, as god of all gods, is synonymous with Egyptian god of all gods, Horus, both avian sky gods who rest on mountaintops. Zeus atop Mount Olympus is the same as Horus atop the pyramid. They are both the same god. On the dollar bill, they are portrayed in green, Zeus eagle and Horus atop the pyramid, which is concave and thus octagonal, or a green octagon, surrounding our declarations of monotheistic authority.
Don't worry, I'll take care of ID.
Christopher Lloyd is Zeus. That's why his tunnel accesses an observatory of heaven that sits on top of a mountain and sports a giant green octagon, on the underside of which is a large mural centered around an image of Zeus. Macaulay Culkin is sent into the land of color while standing on an octagram. Moments ago, he passed through this tunnel that leads to the observatory. Above his head is a giant mural focused around Lloyd, paralleling the observatory's mural focused around Zeus.
omnipotent and all-powerful ruler of Oz.
Since I've had Toontown under my jurisdiction,
I Page Master.
The observatory's origins are less than innocent. Designed by John C. Austin, an architect exclusively devoted to constructing free Masonic temples, he is responsible for the Hollywood Masonic Temple, the Shriners Masonic Auditorium, and LA City Hall, an obvious phallic obelisk honoring Horus and featured on the cover of a movie the trailer of which foreshadowed the Dark Knight Theater shootings. When Dorothy comes home, she tells of her journey through the land of enlightenment, while quietly in the background, the divine Oz enters in through the window.
Doesn't anybody believe me?
Of course we believe you, Dorothy.
You're so hypnotizing. Could you be the devil? Could you be an angel? Your touch magnetizing. Physical and floating. Leaves my body glowing. They say, be afraid. You're not like the others. Futuristic lover. Different DNA. They don't understand you. You're from a whole nother world. A different dimension. You open my eyes, and I'm ready to go. Lead me into the light. Kiss me, infect me with your love and fill me with your poison. Take me, take me. Wanna be a victim, ready for abduction. Boy, you're an alien. Your touch of foreign is supernatural.
We found Lucas and Leah after the Coral Gables High School students went through the process.
I'll be more free now, you know?
Oh, you should get it.
Yeah, 100% get it. It's so easy.
Oh, you should get it. Yeah, 100% get it. It's so easy.
Hell no.
Welcome to Sounds of IBM. This is the first IBM Q computation center where the commercial quantum systems used by the IBM Q network live. The IBM Q network is a worldwide organization of industrial, research, and academic institutions joining IBM to advance quantum computing and launch the first commercial applications. Here we see a 20-qubit system, which will be accessed online by members of the IBM Q network. In the future, they will have access to 50-qubit systems, which IBM recently prototyped. Listen to the tinkling whoosh the system makes as it maintains the ultra-cold 15 millikelvin temperature required for IBM's superconducting qubits to operate. That's colder than outer space. Cold enough to make atoms almost completely motionless. This is an open dilution refrigerator that contains the qubits of niobium, silicon, and aluminum. It's so dark and cold inside that it's almost impossible to find even one photon of light.
I have the potential to imagine the unimaginable. Think the unthinkable. See the unseeable. With the arsenal of the world's leading technology at my fingertips, I now have the ability to invent the uninventable. Rebranding into its future, Intel has enlisted House of Gaga to collaborate on a project that will showcase technology through creativity at the highest level. Our partnership will culminate in a performance that inspires to remind the world of the seed of innovation, the wizard behind the curtain, the mind behind the machine. Intel.
So he lays this book on me.
What is it for?
Looks like an airplane.
Well, wait. That ain't no airplane. Look.
The time machine is quite literally an advanced spaceship from another dimension, and Doc Brown, as perceived by the peoples of the era, would be an advanced human being operating a UFO from another dimension, quite literally. Thus, tunnel, the Griffith Park Tunnel. In Lloyd R. Christbearer Part 1, we introduce the theme of the tunnel as being a metaphorical representation for experiencing the world with limited perception, reaching the end as being representative of significant quantum leaps of understanding. We noted Christopher Lloyd is consistently positioned at the tunnel's exit to be dramatically discovered by distressed protagonistic tunnel goers, validating his candidacy to represent the light, or the truth that is carried by higher consciousness or higher intelligences. Let's not forget previous sync associations of Holy Man Christ-bearer Lloyd to substratospheric messianic force Jesus Christ and God of all gods, Mount Olympus's Zeus, which fits ever so nicely as Marty travels in fear down the tunnel of limited perception to be saved by the light, the Christ, Zeus, interdimensional higher intelligence, UFO operating Christopher Lloyd.
Steal my stuff.
Keep in mind that Marty's whole purpose for being in the tunnel in the first place is to reclaim the Gray's alien manuscript from Biff. He has lost his connection to the alien high intelligences, and once he firmly reestablishes his connection with the Greys by reclaiming the manuscript, a UFO appears at the end of the tunnel and abducts him, ever so appropriately reinforcing the sync link between interdimensional pineal gland-induced travel and contact with higher consciousness representing extraterrestrials.
All right, Arnie. Let's find Jennifer.
I don't believe it. I live in Hilldale. This is great. Way to go.
Marty, stay here. Change clothes. If I need you, I'll holler.
Oh, come on, Doc. I want to check out my house.
We can't risk you running into your older self. Come on, Arnie. Let's go.
In a brief time-traveling stint of his own, Biff, clad in checker pleats, is escorted to the wormhole car in a ridiculously over-checkered checker cab that adorns the word Luxor. A quick Google image search reveals a puzzling and unmistakably obvious association of the word Luxor with celestial contact-evoking Stargate monuments originating in ancient Egypt, and being intimately connected to Eye of Horus powers also associated to Marty and stargating. The Eye of Horus delivers Marty the essential ingredients for opening a stargate, while this night sky illuminating Egyptian pyramid escorts Biff towards the same stargating fate.
Be careful, old timer. There's a rough neighborhood. Right here, here it is.
Biff's only encounter with time travel is not just accompanied by the Stargate Pyramid, but also happens to come immediately after he finds the gray alien representing Sports Almanac. We can observe the intuitive connection between traversing tunnels, entering wormholes, walking into the light, and alien abduction, all interchangeable representative elements of the non-local journey of spirit, and all experienced by Marty, culminating at a particular tunnel of great interest. Most curious indeed is the Griffith Park Tunnel, and Christopher Lloyd's affinity for loitering near its exit. He does not merely star in movies featuring this tunnel, nor does he even merely interact with the tunnel. He always plays out the same story of being found directly at the tunnel's exit. In one instance, by a man chasing after a white rabbit, accompanied by the Scarlet Woman, operating a checker cab down the rabbit hole towards salvation. The very same rabbit hole traversed by Marty while pursuing the Alien Contact Almanac, which he happened to first discover on display here, adjacent to stargating paraphernalia. The same white rabbit being pursued by our other Christopher Lloyd discovering Griffith Park Tunnel adventurer.
Tammuz, so the story goes, was gored to death by a wild boar in a hunting accident when he was 40 years old. The 40 days of weeping for Tammuz was instituted one day for each year of his life, in which sun god worshippers would deny themselves a pleasure in this life for the sake of Tammuz's pleasure in the afterlife. When Tammuz's mother died many years later, the exalted Queen of Heaven was sent back to earth by the gods on the first Sunday after the vernal equinox. Nimrod's wife arrived in a giant egg which landed in the Euphrates River and broke open to allow her to emerge, reincarnated as the bare-breasted goddess of sexual desire, Easter.
Now, it's not an egg, is it? It's a vessel? Is that what you call it?
It's a vessel. And I said, okay.
Okay, it's a vessel. Yeah. And you were in there for like a couple of hours.
I was in it for 3 days.
For 3 days? Wow. And was it cold in the egg? The vessel?
It was temperature controlled.
Temperature controlled, okay.
Yes.
Right.
Actually, it was inspired by humanoids, alien sex humanoid hybrid woman.
My favorite, Born This Way is the new single. Tell us about the album.
Oh, I love the album so much, and I hope all of the monsters do too.
Yeah. And tell us what Born This Way is about.
Essentially, with the visuals and the music and all of the lyrics, it's about being able to know that when you were born, you weren't just born in that moment. You have your entire life to realize the person that you're potentially going to become, and whoever you choose to be was part of your destiny. Yeah. So I'm encouraging people to know that if in this moment you don't feel entirely happy or secure in who you are, or you feel bullied or disenfranchised, it's never too late to harness your confidence and your inner superstar and say, I was born this way. The performance we did last night at the Grammys was, and what we've been doing with the egg and the rebirth, it's meant to signify an artistic statement of birthing a new race, a race within the race of humanity.
Birthing a new race, a race within the race of humanity.
Birthing a new race, a race within the race of humanity.
To proclaim her divinity, Easter changed a bird into an egg-laying rabbit. In this dingy Hinnom Valley Tammuz cave, the occult priest would impregnate virgins on the altar of Easter at the Easter sunrise service, and a year later they sacrificed those 3-month-old infants on the same altar and dyed Easter eggs in the blood of those sacrificed babies. To this day, one Christian denomination only allows their Easter eggs to be dyed a single specific color, blood red. They have no idea how the tradition started or what it rehearses. But now you know. Easter Sunday is now the day that culminates the 40 days of weeping for Tammuz.
The commander of many armies, defender of Rome, loyal servant to the emperor. I have stood on blood-soaked ground and felt the flame of battle burning through my veins. I have skewered flesh on metal and pierced life from limb. I am a centurion, and I have seen death.
Marty is being told to pick up the book and follow the white rabbit. Strange how we have Marty standing before two items that have both been used to lead to Christ at the end of the Griffith Park tunnel. Marty, whose first supernatural contact episode was with the Eye of Horus, is now saved by Christopher Lloyd below a spirit of Horus representing Egyptian Obelisk, which is the cornerstone to the landscape design of the Griffith Observatory, which rests directly on top of the Griffith Park tunnel. Lloyd's tunnel consistently syncs with embarking on the non-local spiritual journey, and it was actually built in order to access an observatory of the heavens that houses a monument honoring the spirit of Horus. The Spirit of Horus tunnel is also featured momentarily in The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai Across the Eighth Dimension.
Dr. Buckaroo Banzai, perhaps you can explain yourself.
The film begins as Buckaroo is going to pilot the world's first interdimensional traveling car, much like his Back to the Future counterpart, Marty McFly. Banzai shows up fashionably late due to the fact that he is in the middle of performing surgery.
May I have the curved yasagil, please?
It's not here, Dr. Banzai.
Let me have the straight one then.
Dr. Banzai is using a laser to vaporize a pineal tumor without damaging the quadrigeminal plate. Subcutaneous microphones. Dr. Banzai is using a laser to vaporize a pineal tumor without damage. Pineal. Dr. Banzai is using a laser to vaporize a pineal tumor without damaging the quadrigeminal plate.
Brain surgery on the pineal gland, another strange parallel to Marty McFly. After interacting intimately with the pineal gland, he pilots mankind's first successful interdimensional journey, helping us draw the same conclusions about pineal gland-induced ascension that we saw displayed in the Epic of Marty McFly. Highlighted on Banzai's car is the value 88. It is overtly plastered on the hood, doors, and license plate. The car itself is even named the HB88.
When this baby hits 88 miles per hour, you're gonna see some serious shit. When this baby hits 88 miles per hour, you're gonna see some serious shit.
With many questions to be answered, we jump to a scene where Banzai begins pursuing this white van that features a haloed mountain or Stargate type logo. And he ends up chasing the van through the Spirit of Horus tunnel, the very same tunnel that Marty chased the Gray's alien almanac through. Inside the van is one of the parts that allows his car to function properly and travel hyperdimensionally. Without it, he cannot open wormholes. See that we have two men traveling through the Spirit of Horus tunnel, both striving to reconnect with higher intelligences or with their ability to contact higher intelligences. Marty must reclaim the Gray Alien Sports Almanac so that the alien UFO, operated by Christ Lloyd, will connect with him, while Banzai must get his hyperdimensional car part from the van with the Stargate logo. The kicker is that the van with the Stargate logo at the end of the Spirit of Horus tunnel is operated by Christopher Lloyd, playing an alien.
Cough up the crucial missing circuit. Wow, look at you. Yeah, I guess you took the hard road. Ah, me too. You'd think we'd learn. Well, all in the name of progress, right? They say there's always something better. Burn the old, bring in the new. Well, how'd that work out? Risked our whole future. And we trusted them. And now we fight them any way we can. For what?
I want to start off with a book that was written 2,500 years ago by Sun Tzu called Art of War. And the first rule of Art of War is know thy enemy. And that is the key to understanding what is going on in this realm. A lot of people claim to know what's going on. They say they know the enemy, but they leave out a portion that they miss a lot of information. What I'm talking about is most people think the enemy is a physical enemy alone, and it is not. It is a physical enemy along with a spiritual or a hidden realm. Call it what you want. But that is the portion that if you don't understand, if you don't respect that, you don't believe in that part of the enemy, then you miss a lot of information. Even the Bible in Ephesians 6:12, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. And a lot of people don't want to believe that. Even Christians, they forget about that part of the spiritual side. They think it's either Democrats or Republican, or it's right or left. When you get caught up in that right-left paradigm, that's where they want you. They want you fighting against each other so you don't understand that third person. I call it the third person in the room that's standing in the corner that poked the stick at both sides that are watching you fight each other. All along, the enemy is in the corner, that spiritual realm that is so important. And to address that, they're like, well, I can't see that, Nicholson. I can't touch it. I can't feel it. Look, you can't touch or feel airwaves, radio airwaves either. You can't touch them. You have to use a radio tuner to tune those in. Does that mean that radio waves don't exist? No, they quite well do exist. You have to just tune in, just like the enemy is around us all the time. You just have to use your senses to tune in. Most don't have the time, they don't have the patience to tune in. That's why all of the distractions from the media, music, videos, all of this stuff to keep you occupied so that you don't realize what's going on around you in a hidden realm, spiritual realm.
Operation Warp Speed is a fast-paced effort to bring COVID-19 vaccines and therapeutics to the American people. I am General Gus Perna, and here are 5 things to know about Operation Warp Speed. First, Operation Warp Speed is a partnership between the Department of Health and Human Services and the Department of Defense and other federal organizations to develop, manufacture, and deliver vaccines and therapeutics to the American people in order to move past this pandemic. Second, science is driving all of our decisions. We are not cutting any corners with respect to safety and efficacy. We need to do this the right way. We are working with 6 drug manufacturers who are putting their vaccine candidates through the same rigorous clinical trials that we do for every pharmaceutical. Third, we have worked with the manufacturers to help them scale up operations in order to produce vaccines and therapeutics. We have purchased and secured supplies needed to deliver and administer the drug. Everything from the vials that hold the vaccine to the syringes and needles that will be used to put shots into arms. Fourth, the military is bringing planning and logistics expertise to this operation, working across the supply chains from manufacturing to delivery to coordinate vaccines and their movement across the country to all states, territories, and federal agencies. But commercial industry, not the military, will physically ship and distribute the vaccines to your local areas. And fifth, Operation Warp Speed will be successful because of this whole of America approach, drawing from the best of industry, academia, science, and defense in order to fight this pandemic. We have been transparent and open about our process, and now it's up to you, America. When the vaccine is ready and available, I hope you answer the call.
I'm literally shaking right now because I cannot believe that we missed this. This is, of course, the official website for our government and the official website for Operation Warp Speed. And I start looking at this symbol and I'm like, at first I was like, okay, what is this? And then I look over here and I'm like, wow, those almost look like some kind of Hebrew letters. But then I looked through all the Hebrew letters and I didn't see anything. So then I go, well, maybe these are the feathers of wings, like an eagle or something. And maybe this is the lower wings of the eagle represented behind this cube. And then, of course, I saw that this cube is definitely very esoteric because it's Saturn symbolism. But then I began to dig deeper and searching, and within about 10 or 15 minutes, God revealed the truth to me about what this symbol is. And I hope if you're a Christian who voted for Trump, I hope you're sitting down, because this is the symbol for opening your chakras. This is called the Antakarana symbol.
Antakarana, or Antaskarana, by H.P. Blavatsky, from H.P. Blavatsky's Theosophical Glossary, published in 1892, read by Dave Marsland of Cardiff Theosophical Society. Antakarana is a Sanskrit word meaning intermediate instrument. Sometimes the variation Antaskarana is used in its place. Antakarana or Antaskarana. The term has various meanings, which differ with every school of philosophy and sect. Thus, Sankaracharya renders the word understanding, others as the internal instrument, the soul formed by the thinking principle and egoism, whereas the occultists explain it as the path or bridge between the higher and lower manas, the divine ego, and the personal soul of man. It serves as a medium of communication between the two, and conveys from the lower to the higher ego all those personal impressions and thoughts of men which can, by their nature, be assimilated and stored by the undying entity and be thus made immortal with it, these being the only elements of the evanescent personality that survive death and time. It thus stands to reason that only that which is noble, spiritual and divine in man can testify in eternity to his having lived.
We have to break down what this symbol means in order for us to understand what is going on and what they're trying to do with Operation Warp Speed and this VC that's coming out and being now administered to many Christian people who voted for Trump and trusted him. And right here in his symbol is the Antakarana, covered by the CV, of course. Antakarana. Why more people should pay attention to this symbol. There it is. Represents a whole philosophical concept. Refers to deep levels of the mind, ego, and emotions. It's about how we can transcend them and how we can grow from a spiritual perspective. What does Antakarana mean? It means interior or within. Antar means interior within, and Karana means sense or organ. But the subject at hand is a different reference, the Antakarana symbol and its power. Now they talk about the similarities between the Antakarana and this. By simply placing this symbol in a room, it will have positive influence on the energy and people in that room. With its shape, Antakarana is able to literally cut the negative thoughts and energies that come close to it, whether it is in prayer or meditation. Maybe this is the mind control that they have over everybody. Another thing I noticed is that maybe this little thing coming off the bottom is a Q. You know, like the little swipe at the bottom of the letter Q. And cube might be Q. And Antakarana, which is Q. So maybe this is the sorcery magic that they have over everybody. This is why everyone's mind controlled by Q. A lot going on here, you guys. Let's keep delving into this. Amplifies healing energies, whether it's prayer or meditation, Reiki, or a simple massage session. Antakarana will dispel any residual energies that might emerge from such therapies. If placed close to you, the Antakarana has the ability to start and enhance the Taoist microcosmic orbit. This is Qigong method of stimulating the energy centers, energy points, organs, and meridians within the body.
The Antakarana is often called the Rainbow Bridge, or the Bridge of Light. The Antakarana is literally translated as the inner organ. It is a stream of lighted energy which connects the highest aspects of our energy system with the lower aspects. Until the Antikarana is built, there is no means by which the spiritual triad, or the monad, let us say, the spirit of man, can connect with his normal personality mind. The Antikarana is built scientifically. Building the Antikarana is one of the higher stages of meditation. The consciousness of the lower man can ascend into the higher worlds via the Antikarana. One builds the Antikarana through the use of intensity of focus, the creative imagination, and the art of intensified projection of a beam of light across the already imagined bridge of light. There are 6 stages to building the Antikarana, and we human beings mostly focus on the first 3: intention, visualization, projection. These stages lead to an evocation of the higher life.
So all these agendas going on, and this was in Seattle. You see the Space Needle building that was used. This projection on the Space Needle was actually done digitally. It wasn't there in real life. If you went there in real life, you wouldn't have seen it. But again, it looks very similar to the Project Bluebeam idea. And this was a very transhumanist display. So we had the piercing through space, and we had almost like an artificial intelligence mind map of the brain there, this neurological sequencing. So a lot of the theme of this was transhumanism, and one of the biggest things for me in seeing this in Seattle was how the needle, yes, the needle, was piercing through a strand of DNA. Now, you'll have to come to your own conclusions with that, partly because I can't really talk about it too much on YouTube. But what do you think of this needle? Could this be to do with mRNA? The technology, the needle piercing through the strand of DNA? Could this be to do with DNA manipulation? I don't know. You'll have to come to your own conclusions on that. I'm not allowed to give my opinion, and you see the cubes. And this, right in the centre, I mean, we've got a lot of sacred geometry going on, very New Age symbolism in this this display. Right in the centre there, this is the star associated with Thelema. You see there, that's the Thelema symbol. And you see how it compares to the display in Seattle. You see it right there in the centre. Now, Thelema was to do with Aleister Crowley, of course. They often leave their signs and symbols in these demonstrations. It was the same with the London Olympics 2012. Again, associated with Aleister Crowley. Ordo Templi Orientis. You see how this in 2012 was very similar to the symbol for the OTO, the Ordo Templi Orientis, which was founded by Aleister Crowley. So you see, and also we looked at that commercial before where they had the Rosicrucian symbol. Again, they leave their signs and symbols in these things. So is that a coincidence? Does that mean that this is Thelema orientated Luciferian stuff? Probably. So we've got the cube and other sacred geometries going on there. And then we had the needle splitting these cells. You see how this is showing the cells being split by the needle? And then they come together as one. You can't see it there, but they come back together as one. The division of these cells come together in this cocoon, which then evolves and opens up into a butterfly. So this obviously has elements of mind control in it. MK Ultra. So what does this mean in terms of that whole sequence? I'll leave you to your own conclusions there. But splitting these cells, the needle into the DNA, splitting the cells into the cocoon, opening into the butterfly. What do you think that represents in terms of when you tie it all together? Leave your ideas in the comments. So we go into the abyss. And this looks very similar to a UFO. There's very obviously a space theme with the Space Needle, but very similar to UFO technology. This is just, I mean, if you compare this with this, you see how similar that building looks. And they're already talking in the news about the disclosure of UFOs and things like that. Now, I'm not a believer in UFOs in the sense that I don't think that there's extraterrestrial beings out there other than the great deception that is caused by the enemy's kingdom. That's what I believe is all this propaganda is about. I don't believe in literal aliens from another planet. Time and time again, it's been shown to be part of a deception, because when people have these abduction experiences, for example, they often call on the name of Jesus Christ, and when they do, it stops. So it's a very demonic thing. But can you see how this is showing that propaganda towards aliens? Very sci-fi stuff. Look at this. Look how this is showing UFO propaganda. So we see all this transhumanist machine symbology and sacred geometry is total New Age Luciferian stuff. And we see this looks very Hindu, a lot of Hinduism. It reminds me of the Hindu type stuff, type imagery. And we get this sacred flower, the sacred lotus, growing at the top here. You see there? That's the lotus flower. Total paganism, total New Age stuff. We go into outer space, we get the purple, the merging of the red and blue together. More New World transhumanist symbolism. And this looks very similar to the Jed pole. Remember we looked at with the Vatican Christmas display, the Jed pole, DJED, from ancient Egypt. It looks very similar, which is in ancient Egypt, it represents the spine of Osiris, which is Nimrod. Quite similar to that depiction. And ultimately this really is an Asherah pole, which is being worshipped here. You see the hands that come at the side of it, venerating this pole, this Asherah pole. And some have likened that to the two heads of the two beasts. But very creepy, Antichrist, Luciferian New Age stuff. Which doesn't surprise me that this had the symbol for Thelema at the very start. So a bit concerning, isn't it, when you see the needle and the DNA manipulation. And this is what someone said online about this display. This is an absolutely unbelievable display. They cover every single aspect of the Antichrist system. They show the needle penetrating a DNA model, the sacred lotus, the Ashura pole, all kinds of satanic and Illuminati symbols, the worship of the sun god. Multiple times they show alien ships, outer space, the COVID molecule, fire and power, dancing creatures, giant hands worshipping the Ashura pole, and they even close with an introduction to the demonic heads and faces of the two beasts. This is how 2021 has been ushered into us.
Michael, what was it I used to say was the #1 rule of leading an effective campaign staff?
Don't think you know all the answers.
Don't think you know all the answers.
Lloyd is most famous for his role as DB Doc Brown in the Back to the Future trilogy, in which he is summoned to capture lightning and is obsessed with measurements of electric current. Lloyd also enters popular consciousness with his role as Uncle Fester, a character said to have been struck by lightning and able to conduct electricity. The popular arcade game Electrifying being inspired by Fester's flair for the electromagnetic.
I told you one stick was enough!
1986 Hollywood film Miracles, Christopher Lloyd stars as Harry, shown here in a trailer not short on lightning bolts.
Miracles.
Zeus, as the god of all gods and ruler over the sky, is symbolically portrayed as an eagle, which also rules the sky. In the 1990 film DuckTales, Treasure of the Lost Lamp, Lloyd voices a villain who systematically morphs into an eagle and rules the sky. Here we see Lloyd Christ as a Zeus eagle landing atop a Christ consciousness representing Egyptian pyramid. The Zeus eagle atop the pyramid being yet another Stargate logo in a long line of Hollywood Stargate logos used to present media that is intended for mass consumption. Contact at Jupiter represents the death of the limited self and the rebirth into oneness. Wednesday Adam reads a note from Uncle Fester, played by Christopher Lloyd, then pronounces him dead, all in training with the death of our Lloyd and Zeus resonating eagle.
And very lonely, you will understand. Love, Uncle Fester. He's a dead man.
Go! It's an American bald eagle.
But aren't they extinct?
They are now.
In the 1990 film Baby Geniuses, we see Christ Lloyd atop a pyramid, and this time also residing between two flanking pillars. The space between the two pillars of Hercules marks the road to Atlantis, or the point of the risen Christ consciousness. Behold the Page Master, pitting Christopher Lloyd glowing with divinity, emerging from the space between two pillars, indicating that he is the risen or resurrected Christ consciousness, complete with his title, Christ-bearer Holy Man. Again, Lloyd is residing in the space between two pillars as he voices the villain from the animated film Anastasia. The pillars representing duality, while the space between them represents oneness, the oneness that is higher consciousness. In this telling image, Christ's head is coming into contact with the sun, which itself has enveloped a pyramid-type monument. The luminous light emanating from the space between the pillars is another indication pointing to rebirth. The word Anastasia is a Greek word that in fact means resurrection.
I have so many fond memories of
Ancient empire of Hittite, a mythical god named Pahasasa is said to be ruler of lightning and thunder. Pahasasa, later adopted by Greek mythology, became known as the winged horse Pegasus, a word derived from Bahasa of the Luwian language which was spoken by the Hittites. Pahasas in Luwian means lightning. Pegasus in Greek mythology was said to be in charge of carrying lightning bolts for Zeus. Christopher Lloyd, our Zeus resonator, summons Pegasus to help him kill Anastasia. Pegasus is derived from Pahasa, which means lightning. Thus, Christopher Lloyd summons lightning. In the 1993 film Angels in the Outfield, Third Rock from the Sun E.T., Joseph Gordon-Levitt rides his bike past an inconspicuous Stargate archetype. Soon afterwards, he prays to God for help and is answered by Christ Lloyd.
God. If there's a God.
Yes! Yes! Amazing play. I love it when they come from above like that.
From above?
The sky deal. It's a good entrance for him.
You mean you saw them?
The angels?
Angels?
Of course I saw them. They're with me.
Who are you?
Just call me Al.
Why me?
You asked for help, and we're here.
God. If there's a God.
You asked for help, and we're here.
If there's a God.
Al is also the name of one of the most famous works by 20th century occultist Aleister Crowley. He wrote Liber Al, also known as the Book of the Law, claiming it was dictated to him by a god, whom he referred to as his guardian angel. Another of Crowley's famous works, Liber Oz, the Book of the Goat, resonates higher consciousness at Jupiter as the land of Oz resides somewhere over the rainbow. Rainbows being formed when light is refracted through a prism at an angle hidden in the alchemical symbol for Jupiter. The land of Oz residing over the rainbow or at Jupiter again resonates Crowley in Ozzy Osbourne's album titled The Blizzard of Oz, featuring a song called Mr. Crowley. As in Liber Al, Liber Oz has Crowley supposedly dictating from a god. Christ Lloyd, having played Al, also plays Oz, or Pan, as the Wizard of Oz, in the made-for-TV series The Witches of Oz.
Entertainment presents Christopher Lloyd as the Wizard of Oz. The Witches of Oz.
Oz again sync-attracts Christ consciousness in Percy Shelley's 1818 poem Ozymandias, where Ozzy is proclaimed the King of Kings, a title reflecting Zeus's god of gods.
When I was talking with the gentleman from Belcom, and we were discussing the lie, everything he was telling me was different from what we were being told was the truth. And at one point I asked him, I said, man, you guys, you lied about a lot, didn't you? And instantly he said, no, we didn't lie about certain things. We lied about everything. None of it was true. I really don't think people realize how deep the lie goes.
Space, the final frontier.
Space may be the final frontier, but it's made in a Hollywood basement.
The Vector, NASA's official logo. If you've ever looked at NASA's official logo, both their official insignia and their official seal, you'll see that the most prominent object in the seal is a red swooshing object. They call that the chevron or the vector. If you ask NASA's Public Affairs Office, this symbology is featured so heavily in their insignia and seal, they'll give you what really amounts to the standard facile cover story for the unilluminated. They'll tell you that that is a representation of a hypersonic wing design from the 1950s, which was the time the logo was created. Not exactly the case. Someone might want to ask the Russian Federal Space Agency, Roscosmos, that was formed in 1992, why they chose that same logo. And while you're at it, you can go ask the Chinese, who formed their space agency in 1996, why in the world they're using a hypersonic wing design from the 1950s as their official logo. Then you can ask the Japanese, the South Koreans, Taiwanese, Malaysia, Mexico, Iran, all of these countries, even Bulgaria. They all utilize the vector symbology in their space agency logos for their national space agencies. It gets even deeper. You can go look at the individual manned program patches for NASA. The Mercury program, for example, a blatant use of covert symbology. In every logo dealing with the Mercury program, you'll see what looks like a number 7 in their logo. And again, NASA's official story is that they put this number 7 there so that they could pay homage to the original 7 Mercury astronauts. Kind of forgetting the fact that only 6 Mercury astronauts actually flew into space, because number 7 never did. Deke Slayton had a heart problem, so he didn't get to go up. So there were only 6 Mercury astronauts. Yet there's a 7 in every single logo. That's in the official mission or official program insignia for Mercury, as well as the 6 individual mission patches carry this logo. And it carries on to the Space Shuttle program. If you look at the Apollo logo has a big letter A in it. At least that's what they want you to believe, but it's not. Again, that's just a simple way of explaining away the inclusion of this vector symbology in the logo. If you go to the Space Shuttle program, the original Space Shuttle STS program patch is a triangular patch that, again, hides the use of the chevronic vector symbology. And that also goes for many of the STS-specific mission patches. Every single one of the International Space Station expedition patches carry the vector symbology. The Russian Mir space station used the vector symbology. That was their official logo. You can even go deeper and look at military-industrial complex companies. Look at the logo on a company like Lockheed Martin, 2 vectors. The X Prize logo, Ames Research Labs, U.S. Space Command. When you get into the military realm, the United States Space Command, their official logo is the vector symbol. And when you look at the military's individual space-specific programs, all of them deal with vector symbology in their official insignias. And the question really becomes, who or what are these people paying homage to? And the truth, quite frankly, is out of this world.
This painting, entitled The Madonna with Saint Giovannino, was made sometime during the 1400s. The artist's name is not known, but at first glance you can notice a UFO shape in the sky to the right side of the Madonna. If you were to see the original full-size painting, you would see the object clearly. Looking at the enlargement, you can see a man and his dog standing and looking up at the object. However, this painting has something else being depicted. On the left side of the painting, you see the sun and some vector-like objects seemingly flying from or toward the sun. Perhaps this artist was trying to tell us something. In another painting of the Madonna made by a completely different artist, the unusual patterns of the sun and the vector-like symbols have also been added prominently on the Madonna's cloak. You can see the same symbology on this painting as on the one before. This time, however, there is no UFO object to be seen anywhere in the sky. This footage was taken over Mexico City in 2002. There were many other videos and photographs taken of this same type of object, clearly resembling the shapes as seen on the visor of the astronaut, on the moon, and depicted in the 14th century paintings of the Madonna and Child. There is probably a larger story behind the vectors, but it is very unusual this symbology has been adapted by all the United States and foreign space agencies, especially enemies like Iran.
Ground control to Major Tom. Ground control to Major Tom. Take your protein pills and put your helmet on. Ground control to Major Tom. 8, 7, 6. Commencing countdown, engines on. 7, 6, 5. Check ignition and may God's love be with you. This is ground control to Major Tom. You've really made the grade, and the papers want to know whose shirts you wear. Now it's time to leave the capsule if you dare. This is Major Tom to ground control. I'm stepping through the door, and I'm floating in a most peculiar way.
like it then, I would stand in line for this. There's always room in life for this. Oh baby, then it fell apart, fell apart. Oh baby, then it fell apart, it fell apart. Oh baby, then it fell apart, it fell apart. Oh baby, like it always does, always does. Strange sounds have told me, they held me down every night. I didn't have much to say, I didn't give up the light. I closed my eyes and closed myself and closed my world and never opened up to anything that could get me at all. I had to close down everything, I had to close down my mind. Too many things caught me, too much could make me blind. I've seen so much in so many places, so many heartaches, so many faces, so many dirty things you couldn't even believe. I would stand in line for this. It's always good in life for this. Oh baby, then it fell apart, it fell apart. Oh baby, then it fell apart, it fell apart. Oh baby, then it fell apart, it fell apart. Oh baby, like it always does, always does. Oh baby, then it fell apart. Extreme ways are back again, extreme places I didn't know. I broke everything new again, everything that I'd owned. I threw it out the windows, came along. Extreme ways I know will part the colors of my sea, perfect color me. Extreme ways that helped me out late at night. Extreme places I had gone, but never see any light. Dirty basements, dirty noise, dirty places coming through. Extreme worlds alone, did you ever like it then? I would stand in line for this. There's always room in life for this. Oh baby, then it fell apart, it fell apart. Oh baby, then it fell apart, it fell apart. Oh baby, then it fell apart, it fell apart. Oh baby, like it always does, always does. Strange sounds have told me, they held me down every night.
Ka! It's you!
Yes, man cub. So nice to see you again.
Oh, go away. Leave me alone.
Let me look at you. You don't want me to look at you? Then you look at me.
No, sir. I know what you're trying to do, Ka.
You do? You don't trust me.
No.
Then there's nothing I can do to help.
You want to help me?
Certainly.
Okay. So let's dedicate this to General Kelly, the Border Patrol, and the ICE agents for doing such an incredible job. Right? This was written by Al Wilson a long time ago. And I thought of it having to do with our borders and people coming in. And we know what we're going to have. We're going to have problems. We have to very, very carefully vet. We have to be smart. We have to be vigilant. So here it is, the snake. It's called the snake. On her way to work one morning, down the path along the lake, a tender-hearted woman saw a poor, half-frozen snake. His pretty-colored skin had been all frosted with the dew. Poor thing, she cried, I'll take you in, and I'll take care of you. The border. Take me in, O tender woman. Take me in, for heaven's sake. Take me in, O tender woman, sighed the vicious snake. She wrapped him up all cozy in a comforter of silk and laid him by her fireside with some honey and some milk. She hurried home from work that night, and as soon as she arrived, she found that pretty snake she'd taken in had been revived. Take me in, O tender woman. Take me in, for heaven's sake. Take me in, O tender woman, sighed that vicious snake. She clutched him to her bosom. You're so beautiful, she cried. But if I hadn't brought you in by now, oh heavens, you would have died. She stroked his pretty skin again and kissed him and held him tight. But instead of saying thank you, that snake gave her a vicious bite. Take me in, O tender woman. Take me in, for heaven's sake. Take me in, O tender woman, sighed the vicious snake. I have saved you, cried the woman, and you've bitten me, heavens, why? You know your bite is poisonous, and now I'm going to die. Oh, shut up, silly woman, said the reptile with a grin. You knew damn well I was a snake before you took me in. Does that explain it, folks? Does that explain it?
Trust in me.